So, hello everybody. So today's session is basically resourcing tools for when we're dealing with resistance and backdraft in mindfulness. Now, what do I mean by these two key terms? We call it divesha in yoga, and both Buddhism and Hindu yoga branch from the same thing but then split off. Basically, when we talk about resistance, the opposite of resistance is acceptance. And resistance can take itself in another form. It's denial. And it's basically when we may not like what's happening. So, for example, we may not like social distancing and lockdown, okay? But if we practice acceptance, we acknowledge it is happening and try to let go of the fact that things aren't exactly the way we want them to be, we will find freedom in that release. Because the more we struggle and the more we resist something, when we believe that our moment by moment experience should be other than that it really is a lot of effort to resist it. We expend so much effort that the exhaustion of it is like akin to being pulled down into quicksand. So resistance can be any of the following. Being constantly distracted by social media in your iPhone, for example. Feeling physical tension in your body. Having a lot of thoughts or rumination where you've got your monkey mind, overwork, overeating, addictive behaviour. It's very similar to the cost of distraction, being angry, irritated or numbing out. Now, as we've said, if you resist, the problem that you have and the challenge and the emotion will persist. So we put out the welcome mat, don't we, to difficult experiences. So if you did manage to watch the video, The Fly, okay, he is obviously the character who's meditating, the Japanese samurai warrior. He's trying to meditate and the fly irritates him. And the more he's more aware and resists the fly, they just keep coming at him, okay. So resisting is not the same as having a political and social resistance to injustice. There are positive, good reasons for resistance. What I'm talking about here is I'm talking about resisting change, resisting when you're meditating, resisting wanting to do what you know is good for your well-being and your health. So suffering is inevitable for everybody. But it's the second arrow, isn't it? The Buddhist parable, the second arrow. The first arrow is the pain that you feel, the incident that causes the suffering. And the second arrow is your reaction to it. So if we either suppress, ignore or resist, it persists, that painful emotion and that problem. So we have to feel to make it heal. And but that is problematic in itself, so we have to be very, very careful how we allow the emotions in, because they become too overwhelming. And this is the point of this little 20-minute sort of mindfulness practice, because we have to do it gently, and that's the techniques that I'm going to show you today, the resourcing techniques for this. The good thing is that self-compassionate mindfulness gives you a focus where you say to yourself, I'm feeling really, really struggling with this. Instead of resisting, you say to yourself in a nice, kind voice, what do I need right now? Especially to be kind to myself. You have to validate the pain, you have to try and understand the pain, and you have to understand that as a common experience. But it's hard, like I've said, to open up to the pain. But you're resisting the opportunity for self-discovery to move forward. And resistance is very, very exhausting. If you notice in the video, the samurai absolutely spends all his time fighting the fly, and it's exhausting. and the tension builds up in the body, and the body builds up defences, and then the fight or flight response takes over. And then if the fight or flight response hasn't got a target, the body attacks itself in autoimmune diseases, arthritis, IBS, multiple sclerosis. So changing your thoughts can change your world. He changes his perspective, doesn't he? He reframes everything. So this is the metaphor of the blossoming of the tree. He stops striving. He stops using all his energy to fight the fly. He practices non-resistance to what is. Now, but the fact is, like I said before, it can be very, very challenging. So, backdraft, which comes from the fire service, means that you have to avoid, when you're in the fire service, to open a door suddenly, or it causes this massive gush of fire. Okay, so what happens if you put the welcome mat and you don't want to be resisting or averted from the pain? So what we have to do is what they do in the fire service is they gradually let the oxygen in. They don't do it suddenly. So backdraft is a metaphor for when the distress arises, when you allow the pain in too quickly, or when you're practicing self-compassion. Now, the theory is that if you're practicing mindfulness and you get backdraft, it means that it's working. But you have to be very, very careful how you do it. You have to slowly resource build the actual way that you allow difficult emotions and experiences to overwhelm you. What you need to do is you need to recognise emotionally the negative thoughts, and you have to recognise where they occur physically in your body, whether illness, aches or pains. And I tend to do, I'll be really honest, is I tend to intellectualise how I practice resistance and aversion. People can isolate themselves, people can criticise others, or they can criticise themselves. That's the form of resistance. Now, what do you do then to actually deal with backdraft when you're dealing with opening up to the intensity of the emotions? Here's some techniques. First of all, as I've said before, ask yourself, what do I need to feel safe right now? Number one. 2, label the experience. When you label the experience, you're using the prefrontal cortex part of your brain, which switches off the fight or flight amygdala part of your brain. You're using the thinking part of your brain. So you'll say to yourself, oh, this is backdraft. Say it in a friendly tone, okay? Labelling and naming the strongest emotional experience and validating that experience and saying it in a compassionate manner to yourself, that's grief. Can be very, very useful because you switch from the amygdala fight, flight, freeze, flop into the prefrontal cortex thinking brain, part of the brain. Okay, you take away that part of the stress response. The next point, you can explore where it resides in the body. It always resides in the body as physical pain sometimes. Children are very good at this. Children are very good at telling you that they've got tummy ache when really there's something else going on inside of their minds. So if it's tension in the tummy or wholeness in the heart, remember we've practiced the whole idea of different types of soothing touch. What it does is it releases the feel-good hormones, endorphins and oxytocin. So apply the specialist touch to the area where you feel the pain and the stress. Another thing you can do is you can redirect your attention. Okay, we call this pendulation, and we did do a pendulation practice not long back on Friday. Pendulation practice is when you move your attention away from the area or the feeling or the emotion or the thought, and you take it to a neutral part of the body. Now, I think the best way of doing that is to focus on grounding and centering. So you focused on your breath in your belly, okay? You focus on your seat, where you've placed your hands, and on the floor. Use your 5 senses. Now, we talked about orientation, grounding and centering, didn't we? Orientation is where you look around the room and you take in, using your 5 senses, where you are. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Taste is difficult, so I like to tickle the top of my palate with my tongue. Okay, so do that. Grounding is really important in centering. Always being aware, but where you're seated, and always be aware of your belly, your agency, your sense of power, your control. I'm not into chakras. I'm into the endocrine system. I'm not into Kundalini. I'm into the vagus nerve. I'm into science. Okay, so when we talk about, you know, belly breathing and our centre and our sense of agency and our power and control and our centre, here, this is where everything moves around from us. Whatever's going on out there doesn't matter. Your sense of agency and power and empowerment comes from having a strong core. And I practice working on my strong core. Sit-ups today, or sort of, you know. So what we can do then is we can do something called the BBB practice. It's called body, breath and being, and we're going to practice that now. Okay, so I'm going to step back from the camera and do the BBB. BBB is, you can practice this at any moment when you're feeling anxious, okay, when you're feeling challenged, when you're feeling that suddenly everything sort of hits you, punch in the stomach, you know. You can do this anytime, any place. Okay, so I'm just going to step back. Okay, and we will talk about our list of our own toolkit as well. You need your toolkit of how to keep yourself feeling good and stable and grounded and sort of centered. So when we do our BBB practice, it's body, breath and being. Okay, this is a mindfulness practice. It's very, very popular one that we use in the Man with Heart program. So body, okay. So come into your mountain. You can be standing, you can be seated, whatever feels comfortable, but you're feeling the ground underneath your feet. And what you could do is you could practice a mindful body scan of your left foot and then your right foot. So you could start with your left big toe, your pinky, the toes in between, the space between your toes, your toenails of your left foot, the balls of your left foot. Sense the arch of your left foot and the heel of your left foot. And then sense the whole of the left foot. Just feel the contact between your left foot and the floor. And then move into the contact between your right foot and the floor. Feel the right big toe, right pinky toe. Feel the toes in between and the space in between your toes and the toenails, the balls of your right foot, the arch, the outer heel. Take in all contact between your right foot and the floor. Just notice then as well how your body is right here, right now. Just a quick mindful body scan from head to feet. Just bracing the spotlight of awareness and attention with non-judgmental curiosity and tenderness without looking for reasons why, for any areas of tension or tightness or tingling or temperature. Just notice. You're not trying to change anything. You're not trying to fix anything. And then when you've done that, just check in with the breath and tune into the rhythm of the breath. Just simply notice when you breathe in and when you breathe out. Place your hands on your abdomen. Imagine there's a balloon behind your belly button. And just notice each rise and fall with each inhale and each exhale. Don't worry if your mind gets distracted. Just very kindly and gently, as almost as if you're leading a small child, kindly and gently who's wandered off, and bring them back. Bring back to your focus of the breath. Notice the physical sensation as your belly presses against your hands, each inhale, each exhale. And then allow the mind to be as it is. Okay, just allow the mind to be as it is. Just allow the mind and let all sensations and sounds and thoughts and emotions just come and go. Be aware of everything. Relaxed, present, aware. Just simply be. Just notice everything floating in and out of your awareness, like clouds up against the sky. Coming and going, in and out of your conscious awareness without melding or attaching a narrative or labelling or analysing the source of everything that comes in and out of your conscious awareness. Just that relaxed, spacious awareness. Just let it go. So that's what you do. Okay. And then, of course, we can talk about other things such as resourcing. What do we mean by resourcing tools? So we mean by resourcing tools where you can create your own toolkit of things to help you when you're dealing with difficult emotions. These are non-mindfulness ways, obviously. Number one, if you're working with the physical body, where you're feeling emotions and difficult things inside of your body, do things to soften the body, such as exercise, massage, yoga, a nice warm bath, tea. If it's mentally having to deal with it, then you can obviously meditate, watch funny comedy movies, you can read an inspiring book. If it's an emotional sort of thing that you're having to deal with, as a form, these are all sort of redirecting attention, distracting techniques. Stroking a pet, cuddling a pet, dog. Journaling, we will come to this. I'm going to talk about journaling in our future sessions. Baking. Bake off! Doing anything sort of creative. You might be into crocheting, painting. It's all good stuff. Get it all out there. And also don't forget relating, because relating is very, very important, because this is what we're missing. This is why we're practicing more mindful self-compassion at the moment, because we're missing from the compassion of the hugs and the contact with our friends and family and things like that. So Zoom your friends, send them a card. Do quizzes on Zoom. Play games with people in your house. Play Monopoly. Try not to fall out. And when we talk about spirituality, I mean, I understand that people are spiritual, but what would we define as being spiritual? Spirituality is just something that is greater than ourselves. That is just the definition of spirituality. So, helping others, and just getting into nature. Oh, and the best thing for that, for grounding, is take your shoes off and stand on the grass. It's lovely. Stand on the sand. Get into nature. These are all good things. So, our 20 minutes is now up, but I hope that's been useful for you. It's really important that we accept what's going on, and label and deal compassionately with whatever we're facing right here, right now. It's not easy, but operating resistance, obviously, and feeling the backdraft of stuff. More stuff is going to come up in this time. We have less time to be distracted. We're getting less of that compassionate friendship and family, and this is why we're doing more of this compassionate stuff. Anything that you want to do, I just bike ride. It's all good stuff. Cuddling your pet, music, but you can create your own nice little mantras. Now, my favourite psychologist, Christine Neff, says, using mantras is very, very good, because we tend to say negative stuff to ourselves like, I'm a failure, but turn it around. I'm strong. I'm grounded. I'm peaceful. I accept myself. And we do that anyways, the little sentences and phrases that we use in the mindful self-compassion. But anyway, that's today. Sorry about getting up a little bit a couple of times. I had a problem there once again with the phone, but there you go. But anyway, that's the end of our 20 minutes. Friday.